Great. All right. Welcome back to the How to Relate podcast. I'm here with Emily O'Brien.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for coming on. I found you via Instagram, and I found you. Emily Writes Stories.
Emily tells
Emily
stories.
Tells Stories.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So you have this book, Things I Heard While Dating.
Yes.
And dating is one of my favorite topics to talk about. And I'm sure it is now yours.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. How was this book born?
Through many bad dates, I like to say, but also truly, it was born from remembering something that happened a very long time ago that made me stop and laugh. And for a little backstory, I've been married for 20 years now, which is wild. So I'm still dating, but it's just the same guy, is what I like to say.
Yeah.
And then this person who said something strange to me, which I'll tell you about in 1 second, I remembered it, and then I thought, oh, it just captures this moment in time of when we were dating, not just of the weirdness that I overlooked. It was a red flag among many red flags, but also just how young and hopeful and high-spirited I was that I could make that relationship work. And so I was just kind of laughing about all of it. And then from there, remembered another funny story, and it just kind of snowballed. I started asking friends and family, do you have any weird stories from dating? And usually people could remember something right away, but sometimes it took them a minute or two, or they'd hear somebody else's story and say, oh, wait, I remember now. And then I created a really simple Google form, and people could fill it out online, like through social media and a website, thingsiheardwhiledating.com. And then I put things together.
I love this. So do you want to start with the story of what the memory is that you heard?
Yes,
that you
I would love to.
I'm like on the edge of my seat.
Well, there's a few Emily submissions in the book. They're not all for me, but you wouldn't know because I just did the first name. So this line that started it all, we were on a date, and he looked across the table and he said to me, so you just have more hair on one side of your head? And I just had my part like slightly off center. There was nothing like abnormal about my hair at all. And I just thought, does he think that I have more like hair follicles on one side of my head? Like, I have no idea if he was trying to land a really bad joke or just totally unaware of how hair worked. There were so many weird, it was just so weird.
Yeah. It's like that's an inside thought that he then shared out loud.
Exactly. Exactly. And I feel like it was our second date, but I'm not positive. It could have been the first. It was very early on. And then I just ignored it and changed the subject and moved forward. And we dated for a really long time, like way longer than we should have.
How long?
It was over a year.
Okay.
And I feel like that was probably the first red flag that things just weren't quite right with us.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of what sparked it. But it was also just how much I really wanted the relationship to work because I was finishing up college. He was already done with school. He was out in the career world and had an apartment. And I just thought he was the coolest. And that is what I wanted life to be. Like, I just wanted to jump from where I was to the next phase. And it didn't really matter that he wasn't the right fit. I just wanted to tick all the boxes.
It makes sense because it almost feels like we're sold this blueprint that gives us a GPS turn-by-turn of directions. And in these turn-by-turn of directions, it's you graduate high school, you go to college, you find someone to date, and then eventually marry. And maybe that engagement happens a year or so after you graduate. And then you start your career life, and then it's the house and the family and here's the turn-by-turn directions.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if we're selling I don't know if it's happiness, because I don't know if that's really what, I don't know if that was what the promise was,
Right.
but that might have been part of the perception that was sold to us.
Mhm.
So it totally makes sense that this time of life, it's like, yes, this is what the plan is, because
Right.
this is what I've been told is the blueprint, and look, this is what's next.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like that one though didn't work out.
That one didn't work out.
Okay.
There was another story that I remembered as I was kind of tangling the cobwebs of past dating stories. And because my motto was before I met my husband, well, yes, before I met my husband, the whole idea was I'm going to date as many people as I can to just figure out who I like. And so I really dated a lot and all different kinds of people. And I think my roommates thought I was crazy in college. But for me, it was like 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, then move on. Like whichever spot that it happened, I just was quick to jump to the next person. So I feel like maybe I didn't discriminate at all, which might have been the problem, which might be why there are a lot of entries in the book for me. But another story was this guy, we went out on a date and it was a great date, I thought, but he thought it had gone really wrong. So the first thing that happened was we went to a restaurant and he opened his mouth and his gum fell out on the table. And it was just cute and funny. And I just laughed and he was like, oh, I'm so embarrassed, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, whatever. It's just like, it's fine. And then something else happened. And then the third thing happened. I can't remember. I just remember there were 3 different things. The third one was he walked me to my door afterwards and a tree, like a branch hit him in the eye and it hurt. And so he was really embarrassed. So he said, I'm going to make this up to you. I'm going to come over. I'm going to cook you dinner. We're going to have a do-over. Okay. So he did that. Maybe the following week. I can't remember. I did kick my roommates out. I do remember that. And he made this amazing meal, like wine, pasta, fresh bread.
This is in college.
This was in college. I was like, this man is amazing. And at the end of the meal, he said, I really wish I didn't have a girlfriend.
What?
Yes. Yes. That was my reaction. And he said, oh, I thought you knew. And I went, no. And also, I'm processing all these things like, wait, this is our second date? I'm the other woman. Like, what is going on? And it turned out he had been dating someone for 3 or 4 years and had said, I think we might get married. We might take that next step. He was graduating soon. And he was like, but I just don't know. So I thought maybe I could kind of date other people and just see if she was right for me. Yeah.
Did she know that this was his game plan?
I don't know. I do know they eventually did break up. I did see he married someone else, but yeah.
Can I think of wow.
Yeah. And so I remembered that and I thought, oh, well, that's definitely one for the book. So yeah.
That is totally one for the book.
Total surprise. Total surprise. But also really summed up that situation.
Plot twist. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you said the dates of 3s, I've also said and experienced that. I'm like, either
Really?
last 3 dates, 3 weeks, or 3 months. And that is it's 3s tell it in my mind.
Agreed.
Yeah. So there is something about the rule of 3. Or the rule of 2, when they reveal that they have a significant other. And,
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's the plot twist.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like so many times when people showed me who they were, I still didn't see it. But in that case, I saw it right away. Like that was a red flag. That was a green flag to leave, essentially. Like we're not moving forward. This is a no-go.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't overlook that you're in a relationship because to your point too, I think about how often we see someone who has all this potential.
Yes.
And so they say something that's off, or they say something that's a little like, yeah, what was that about? But I'll ignore it because look, they open my car door, or look, they also love the same band, or we'll kind of like play in our minds the negotiations of who we feel like this person can be for us versus who are they showing me who they really are. And it's weighing both of these sides. And it's like, and there's so much potential here that I feel like they can reach and it'll be
Yes,
great. Yeah.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so much potential. But
Yeah.
hair part guy was so clear that he never wanted to get married, which I was iffy on anyway. I thought, do you really need to get married or just be with, like, I just wanted to partner up essentially. But he also did not want to have kids and he did not want to leave the city. Like, he had certain things that he wanted. And I was like, oh, but who knows? And eventually you might see it a different way and we can always make it work. And yeah,
It is that I can be flexible enough to make it work until I can't be.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think typically women in dating, it's like, all right, think about what the guy needs, or think about maybe even how you can also make it easy because it's like, oh yeah, I can be flexible, or yeah, we can totally just go with it or see what happens, or yeah, we can see where your career takes you and maybe things will change. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like, we'll make it all about you.
Yeah.
And yeah. Because I think, yeah, maybe I was just trying to be the cool girl. Like, oh yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Did you ever see or read Gone Girl?
Yes.
She has the whole monologue about being I forget if she calls it the cool girl or the chill girl. I think it's the cool girl. And it's essentially like the cool girl doesn't care that you go out with your friends on the weekends because she's just so chill with being on her own. The cool girl is the one who can shove down 5 hot dogs and 2 beers and remain a size 2 and not care. The cool girl is the one who can basically like bend to whatever whims there are and shut down any sort of like qualms or emotions that she might have because she's so chill and she's so likable and easy to be around. And I think about that monologue because I read the book and it just like hit, it was like something that you read and it smacks you in the face and you
Yeah.
can't ignore it.
Yeah.
And you're like, damn,
Mm-hmm.
that lands. Yeah.
Yeah.
Being the chill, cool girl to
Mhm.
try and just be with one of the guys. Or yeah,
Yeah.
I can make it work. It's
Mhm.
fine.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Until, like you said, it isn't.
Yes. Yeah. until one day.
Yeah.
It's like, actually, I've been bending myself into a pretzel and it kind of hurts.
Yeah. And it's been 3 days, 3 weeks, or 3 months.
Yep. Yep. And I've also now experienced almost 3 years. So it's been the game of 3.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So that does land.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what about dating did you enjoy?
I think, oh, that's a good one. I want to say just connecting with people and the newness of it all. I really loved the newness of dating. Um, and hearing people's stories. I think being a storyteller, I love listening to stories. And so you get a lot of that, especially on the first and second date.
Yeah, you do. It sounds like, of course, then there are these stories that you wrote in this book.
Yeah.
What's it like for you when you're like experiencing someone's story? Where does your mind go? How do you sit in that too?
Each line that came in for the book felt like this little gift from the universe, or however you want to put it. It just felt like this little gift. And I would read the line and immediately, because I would read the line first, the way the form is done. And I would, in my head, think of how it happened. And then I would read the backstory that people would submit. Most people would send a backstory, not everybody. And then I fill in the pieces. And sometimes I'd read the line and it would be the opposite of what I thought it meant after hearing the backstory. So I guess the unraveling of it would be probably the best part. And also the connection with sometimes perfect strangers, which was super cool, that would just reach out and tell me a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The connection with perfect strangers sounds like it's an impactful one.
It is. And I also love that the book like none of the lines are there to bash, right? Like we don't say names of people like that the lines were said from. You can leave your first name if you're submitting a line if you want, or initials or anonymous or however you want to do it. Some people use fake names. And the idea is to just kind of laugh, cry, and cringe together. And know that so many of us had left dates going, did that really just happen? And it's okay. It doesn't mean you're a bad person or you're never going to find anyone. It just means that one situation is not right for you. And you kind of celebrate it in a way and just know you're going to move on and everything's going to be fine.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because I think about bad dates make good stories. And
Totally.
when I think about the metaphorical brunch table that then most people will meet at, and they'll ask, like, how was last night? Or how was the date? Or how was it meeting this guy? And then there's a tribunal of friends getting together, discerning the text messages, discerning what that interaction meant, and all also gasping, crying, laughing, cringing all at the same time, too.
Yes. And I feel like that is such an important element of life and connection and building community. I had a friend that reached out who was an early reader of the book, and she said to me, I read it on like a Saturday night, and it was just the best thing ever. Just being able to laugh and say WTF out loud. And she felt a little bit less alone in that moment. And to me, that's everything, right? And then I had somebody else text me and say, oh, I gave the book to my niece. She's in college. She had her roommate and her ordered pizza and got a bottle of wine and just went through the book and laughed together and talked about their own stories. And again, the coolest thing ever, because not only did they feel good with the book, but then it was it was the brunch, the village vibe.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, but it is what connects us all. And I like, and we're going to get into this too, but I like that the format of the book, it's that there's these one lines and you get to also add in your interpretation, go, oh my gosh, that might have happened to me. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened to somebody else.
Yeah.
That your like friend's niece who's in college having this experience with a roommate and going, oh my gosh, that makes me think of this story that happened to me. And then also someone who's maybe in their 40s going, oh yeah, I resonate with that one too. That it's happening in all ages, stages of life and dating.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And in fact, I was interviewed for an article, and the writer said, "Oh, this one line, this happened to my roommate last weekend." But it was just the same story. Someone had broken up with her, or actually she broke up with him, and then he said something along the lines of, "Oh, so you're not going to drive me to class anymore." And so I said, "Yeah, we all have the stories. It's so wild."
We all have the stories. You and I were talking before we started recording,
Yeah.
and how I think that's part of the reason why the show Sex and the City has just remained timeless. And I even feel like that lately there's been a resurgence of the show too.
Yeah.
And before there were dating apps, before it was online dating, before even Carrie had her MacBook, it was in this newspaper that then sparked these conversations of what is dating like in, of course, it's in New York City. But now I think about it and we think modern daters look at dating apps as part of the problem, when really it's that dating apps just speak to human problems. It's just another channel they exist in.
Right.
Yeah.
And they create these little receipts of what happened, which is actually super fun to be able to show your friends and pass around, but also maybe not so great if you're on the receiving end of a strange comment. There was someone that I met. I went to a couple of speed dating events. Ship in town, they are an app.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so they allowed me to come crash two of their events and talk to people. which is so fun. So I gathered a bunch of lines, like local triangle area lines from that.
That is so fun. Okay, so I have so many questions. Because what was it like experiencing even watching a speed dating event like that?
Yeah. I almost I try not to look at people speed dating because I didn't want anyone to feel uncomfortable. I I felt really nervous to go and talk to people. I didn't know if I would be accepted. And it was interesting. People did accept me and they were so warm and welcoming. And it was a lot of times the groups of women that would welcome me in, and the guys felt a little bit more hesitant and skeptical in person.
Mhm.
And I can't fault them. I feel like that event, you're not expecting to go talk to a writer who wants to put lines in a book. But a lot of the times I went to talk to women, there would be one girl in the group immediately say, "Oh, I have a story for you." And I would hear somebody else say, "Oh, I don't think I have anything." But after 5 or 10 minutes, they would say, "Oh, wait, I remembered something." And someone told me at one of the ship events that someone DM'd her on a dating app and said the very first thing he said to her was, "Is your nose real?" And her nose was real. There was nothing abnormal about this woman's nose. It was a beautiful, normal nose.
Oh my goodness.
I wouldn't do that.
So beautiful, he thought it was fake.
I was. And then you start to wonder, what's the backstory? Like, is there a nose fetish? Like, is that a thing? Or maybe does he do nose jobs as a living? Like, what would prompt someone to make that comment? But you don't know, and we will never know because she never found that out to pass that along. But that's okay.
I that is so interesting. Never heard that one before. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The speed dating events were really awesome in the sense that with that app, it's part in person, part online.
Mhm.
And so I think it worked for a lot of people. They felt really comfortable with the hybrid of that hybrid mentality. Uh, but yeah.
I can also see it as a speeding event that this could be great icebreakers. Like, and I can imagine these men and women are in a room. It's already like a vulnerable place to be in.
Yeah.
You're getting to know a bunch of strangers for 3 minutes and then you're on to the next person.
Mhm.
But to actually have, hey, what's a dating story that you remember? And I can just imagine people gathering around that. Like the metaphorical campfire to be like gather around, tell these stories, and everyone's interested.
Right.
And it's fun to share. Yeah. Because I think women hear it from women, maybe men hear it from men, but I
Mhm.
feel like we don't hear it as much from men. We kind of are
Mhm.
in like our silos, and then it's
Right.
like, all right, well, where are the places where we can bring them all together?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you learn a lot from someone by hearing their story, and not just about their thoughts on that particular situation, but also kind of how they interact with the world. And so I think it's really telling.
Even how they tell it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was one woman who submitted a line and it was about birthing hips. Like she came out of the bathroom. I feel like I have to look it up to tell you because it was such a great line. She came out of the bathroom on a date and he said a line to her.
Wait, I found it.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't, it's on page 54.
Okay.
I can't get you out of my head. They just don't make women with birthing hips like yours anymore.
Yeah. So he said that to her as she was coming out of the restroom at a restaurant. And she did not break up with him right away. I think she did break up with him. She did end it. And I don't know if it was later that evening or just very shortly after. But she had vetted him with 2 video calls before they went out on a date. And so the thing is, you just never know.
I think that's the other thing is that with the technology and dating apps, it can almost feel like we're doing all this vetting and to help us make us feel like there's mitigating uncertainty. And then people are still going to surprise you. It's like, it's there. People are endlessly filled with surprises, no matter how much maybe vetting we do.
Right. After she ended things, or as she was ending them, I should say, he said to her, "I have money if that helps." And her comment was, it was as if he was saying, "Will that excuse my bizarre behavior?"
Will my money solve my own problems? Like, for you. Yeah.
I almost put that as a separate line in the book because they both were just so golden. I mean,
That is so golden. And if you put them, I can imagine if you put them together, like the birthing hips line, dot, dot, dot. I have money if that helps. Like,
right?
oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have one for you.
Please.
He told me he didn't like my name.
What?
Yeah. So and then brought out a book in Freakonomics that gave context to parents who named their children Brittany. Um, and it was like if they graduated college, their typical socioeconomic status, all these things. And I was like, so you don't like my name? Like that, like, is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah.
But not enough of a red flag for me to end it right there. I just was like, what are you saying? Like, yeah, didn't like my name.
Oh my gosh.
And
Where do you even go from that?
I just was, I would, it's like one of those moments where you're so almost dumbfounded that you're trying to bridge the gap
Right.
of reality. You're like, is this actually happening? This
Yeah.
can't be happening. He couldn't have just said he doesn't like my name that bluntly and then bring out a book to then support his reasoning. And then I'm like, is he actually saying this? It's got to mean something different, right? Because I can't be living this experience right now. And then I leave and I'm like, what just happened?
Okay, well, if book number 2 happens,
Is
that's
that
definitely
what
what it
happens?
is.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, there's so many layers and levels to that. Like, not just that he said it, but that he then had supporting evidence of his theory. And the question is really, would he ever even thought that on his own without having read the book?
I don't know.
Like,
Yeah.
usually if you don't like a name, it's one, it doesn't affect your life whatsoever. It's like, even if you date someone with that name, but 2, maybe don't name your child that name if you don't like it. It's usually because you went to school with someone who you didn't like who had that name.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It's like I think everyone has like we'll never name our child or dog or anything this name because we have an association with a name and therefore it is blacklisted. Which totally understandable. You don't want to have negative associations with people you love.
Right.
On the flip side, it was just this very random thing. It was never, I've dated Brittany's before. It was never, it was just, yay. And then here's the Freakonomics thing. And you can look at it in page 485. And yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry that happened to you.
It's okay.
But I'm glad you're here to tell me the story.
I'm glad that you're here that I can tell the story too, because I don't think I told maybe one person that story. Yeah. So yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Should we get into some people's stories?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Do you want to read your own book?
Sure.
Great. And do you have it? I don't know if favorites is the right word. Do you have ones that I mean the birthing hips one is definitely a memorable yeah, that's a very memorable story.
That there are some go-tos. There's so many just like awesome gems.
Yeah.
There's one that is, here we go. I find you being a vegetarian so sexy. I want to eat edamame off your back.
All right, so a little vegetarian erotica here. Yeah.
So Abby in Lenexa, Kansas heard this on her second date, and it was during their makeout session, and she just let out that weird, uncomfortable giggle that women sometimes do when they don't know what to do. And she said she actually went on one more date with him because he was perfect in every way. And she wanted to just be able to get over the fact that he seriously said that line to her. And she just couldn't. And I don't blame her. Because that's a weird one.
That's a weird one.
Yeah.
It gave her the egg.
It gave her the egg.
Yeah.
I posted that one online, and some of the comments that came through were so funny. Like, was it shelled or shelled? I never actually pictured how that would work. I really like the compliments that are also backhanded.
Yes.
Like, just they're not right.
Right.
So there's two that stand out. One I have pulled up. I'll have to find the other one, but it's not everyone thinks you're beautiful, but I do.
Oh, wow.
And she was in high school and he was in college. And she said this comment was met with silence, which is appropriate. It was 2 months into their relationship.
Do you think that he thought that that was the sweetest thing? Like, there is a world in where he thought a world, maybe not this world, but where he thought that this is the sweetest compliment I can give you, and she's like, that is the weirdest, meanest thing that I could hear right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is exactly, I think, what went on in his head of here we go.
Yeah.
There was another one. Okay, not everyone thinks you're beautiful, but I do. There was one other one that was very similar to that.
Do you mind if I actually toss one in here?
Please.
Okay, because I'm going to piggyback off of, I did an episode with a friend, Beth Vincent, probably a few episodes ago. And she had said that she would never date a cyclist.
Oh.
And she cycles. And then she was like, why did I think that? And so there's a story in here.
Yeah.
Cyclists are entitled. Ben's day after watching him lock up his bicycle started ranting about how much he loathes cyclists, complaining about this and that. Ben responded with a polite shrug. He just left a bike-centric Pedalpalooza event to meet for pizza and immediately regretted his choice. It was a beautiful day and perfect riding weather, he said.
Oh, that one was the best. I think
That's great.
the fact that the date actually saw him arrive on a bike and still said that is unreal. Like, had he not known that Ben was biking, maybe it would be okay. Like, didn't know.
Sure.
And he got angry if he saw a cyclist do something. Maybe 10% that would be okay that he said that. But the backstory makes it 100% not okay that he said that.
Yeah, no. Like, I watched you walk up your bicycle, and now I'm letting you know that I think you're entitled.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you're entitled. I'm saying cyclists, and you might be in that group.
Yeah. I found the other one.
Yes.
You're the hottest girl I know. Not the prettiest, but the hottest. I think this person also thought they were giving a compliment.
Oh,
but they were not. Yeah. That happened in Somerset, England, 6 months into the relationship.
6 months into the relationship.
Yeah.
Wow. What's also kind of surprising that these aren't just first or second dates. These are just getting to meet someone. 6 months is a pretty long time to know someone.
Yeah.
And then for that to be a comment that you say to then your partner, significant other, it's like, where did your mind go that you thought that this was kind and something you should say out loud?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Inside thoughts.
Inside
That's
thoughts.
what you said earlier. Yeah.
Yes. Why are there so many inside thoughts coming out? I think it's another question. It's like another version of like mean tweets. It's like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. Oh man.
Oh, this one was fun that came through. This came from Mimi in London, England. Of course, I'm okay with you being bi. It means we can have a threesome for my birthday. And she had just told him, and his birthday was around the corner. And so that was his response. So, and I didn't follow up to see what happened.
But now we're curious.
I know. I was like, but was it a good thing? I'm thinking not, because she submitted it, but also
Yeah.
it did make me laugh.
Some of these are like almost like something of like, how do we even respond to that? 'Cause
Right.
it's so like, okay, that's where your mind went.
Right.
Mhm.
He turned it into something for him, which I guess is
Right.
great. He's looking at it positively.
He's
But I
not
don't know
threatened
if
by
that's why she
this.
brought it up. But yeah.
No, no, I think this is probably like a very vulnerable moment for her to share, and she's
Yeah.
letting him know, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Cool, here's
Yeah.
what we can do with it."
Yeah.
And she's like, "That wasn't the point. That wasn't why I was sharing this." Um, this one was a favorite.
Okay.
Whenever anyone hears something from my past, they never want to speak to me again. She Googled him years later and found him on To Catch a Predator.
That one made my jaw drop. Yeah.
Yep, he is famous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, could you imagine uh, finding that on Google? Like, I think it's common to be like, you find someone who's married after you look them up, or they might have some different things going on. But to actually be like you were on a national TV show,
Yeah.
yeah, you're famous.
Yeah.
Yeah, for what you did.
Right. She dodged a bullet.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe quite literally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
There was one that came in that was, oh, I don't eat things that grow in the dirt. And I don't have it pulled up, but I remember the story that the guy who heard this line had just made a big spread of food. I'm assuming contained some vegetables and maybe some fruit and just some natural whole foods in this spread. And his date said, I don't eat things that grow in the dirt. And his response to his date was, do you need a ride to the metro station? Like, basically, just, do you need to get out of here?
Yeah.
And he said that night wasn't a bust because he ended up meeting his future husband, which I thought was really sweet, at the same party.
Wow.
So it was like one bad date turned into meeting someone that he then has been spending the rest of his life with. So it ended on such a positive note.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that one was sweet.
That one is sweet. That is a rom-com. Like,
Yeah,
total rom-com moment. Like, you show up to a party with one date, and then
Yep.
this interaction happens, and it's like, well, we're clearly not meant for each other. But then you meet the love of your life at the same event. Like, serendipitous.
Right. Yeah. I like that. It ties it up into a nice, neat little bow.
It really does. It totally does. Do we want to do a couple more?
Sure.
Okay. God, I just opened up to this one.
Okay.
If I ever killed myself, I'd come kill you first. Well, I'm done with this psycho, she thought. Now, how do I get out safely? She was in high school and he was in college.
Yeah.
Mm.
He was probably telling the truth, is all I can think when I read that.
Yeah, that is scary. I'm glad that she is not in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, to be in high school and to go, well, I live with my parents,
Right.
so I can't really leave.
Right.
But you are in college and have a bit more like flexibility and freedom. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm glad it sounds like that ended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's next on To Catch a Predator.
For real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Sarah in New York City heard, oh, do you need something to eat? And that was when she was asked on a date to a restaurant during dinner time. And then her date, when he was ordering, said, oh, do you need something to eat? Because he had just ordered a cocktail. And she felt like she couldn't say she needed something to eat. Just the way he had pitched it was like, but you're good, right? Probably because he didn't want to pay, is my guess.
Yeah.
And she just felt so awkward. So she didn't order anything to eat. But she said, looking back, she definitely would say, yeah, it's dinner time. I'm hungry. You asked me out on a date. I'm going to order some food.
Yeah.
And then she added at the end of her submission that he was an out of work actor, which just kind of helped draw a little conclusion in my brain.
Oh, yes. So there is this wide range debate of who pays for the date.
Right.
And it's an awkward first date conversation because there is this expectation for men. And it's also like, okay, but when you're an out of work actor, it's understandable that your finances might be a little bit different than maybe if you're dating someone who is working full time in a stable position.
Right.
So it's it's a tough conversation because again we've shaken up the dating blueprint that now it is a conversation. It's not just expectation anymore. Yeah.
How do you think people should kind of set the stage for that? Like, is that something that should be covered before you go out on a date? Or how does that work?
So I think a couple of things. I think you can make it in a conversation that you can make it playful. I think you can almost make it as you can make it a how do you see dating in a conversation. And I think it also depends on how long people have been talking, how deep you want to go. Like I think it also there's a lot of context that might depend on this.
Yeah.
But I think how I typically handle it is I'm always like, I will offer. Like, I'm pretty like, no, my expectation is not that you are paying for me to be here as well. Like, you're not paying for my time.
Yeah.
You're not paying. And I want to also show that, like, I'm in this. Like, I'm interested in this too. Or I told a guy friend about this because I was like, what do you think? And he said, first two are on me, third one, like, on you or at least offer type of thing. And I was like, okay.
I love that.
He gave me a very clear, like, these are my expectations. I'm like, okay, I can see that. But yeah, it's interesting because I've been doing a lot of research around the business of marriage or the business of relationships.
Yeah.
So right now in 10 major metro US cities, women are out earning men, particularly in like the mid 20s to 30s age range. In 3 of those cities are New York, LA, and DC. And women are earning 102% of men's income.
Interesting.
So you have the 3 most more expensive cities, high cost of living areas in which women are earning more. So then it's also, and these are pretty big numbers in terms of people who are, so you're shaking up a lot of parts of the playing field. Yeah. So it's a fascinating conversation given current status standards.
Yeah.
58% of women are students in college compared to men. So now colleges, women have been attending more
Right.
higher education. And I think that that's been over the past 10 years too, that women have outnumbered men in higher ed.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to see what's happening in the dating dynamics.
Yeah. And how we navigate that now as a change in society.
Yeah. And they're hard conversations because there's not clear-cut answers. And everyone has their maybe individual interpretation of what could be happening. And then I think then it's like, well, if you have that opinion, what does that say about you? Or then who are you? And what does that tell me? And it's like, how do we hold these differences and start to understand them before we go right into like the character assassinations of them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I want to read that research when
I'll put it in.
Are you doing an article or are you?
I'm currently creating a newsletter around it. So
Okay.
it's particularly around like what's happening with young men. But then when I started doing the research, it's like, well, what's happening with women? And so then I'm like, oh, well, this is what's happening with women. And I totally get this is like totally heterosexual dynamics, but it's just interesting to see because it's like, all right, the rise of feminism, the rise of like female empowerment, and we're all like, hey, look, it's working. And even female CEOs are the top earners now in the S&P 500. So we're really shaking it up here. So yeah, I'm hoping to get that out by tomorrow. That's part of the goal this week. But yeah, this week's goal was, was last week's goal too.
Yeah. Sometimes I have a digital like Post-it note system on my computer and I just move my to-dos from one day to the next. I just copy paste. I got one done, but
yeah,
life happens.
Yeah, life happens. Here are the next 4, and it's like, well, at least I know what's on it. Yeah.
And the order I need to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. What have you learned about these stories? What are some of your takeaways?
I have learned that people do a really good job of laughing just at life in general. And I've learned that it's kind of this whole process has renewed my faith in humanity, to be honest, because so many people reached out with stories and wanted to help and also just do deep dives on the backstory of it. And it's just been enlightening and heartwarming, I think. I've also learned that you can definitely learn from mistakes that you've made and mistakes that other people have made, right? Like sometimes you hear a line and you think, why did they then date for a year later or whatnot? But there's so many things that go into it.
There are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe someone really does see the potential and they're like, hey, their potential outweighs this one story. I think, particularly right now, and part of the reason why I even started doing the podcast is like we're in like a relational crisis. Like we are, a lot of people are feeling disconnected, a lot of people are feeling lonely.
Yeah.
And like how you're saying, it's restoring faith in humanity because
Yeah.
we're all feeling some sort of way and stories really do connect us, and that people can laugh at the stories or the relatability of it or the, oh my gosh, that happened to me and it was so cringy or awful or whatever it might be. And it kind of shed a bit of light of, hey, you're not alone in this either.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's been neat to watch and also experience and then hear other people go through that process. And also I think so much of the book is funny, and I think humor can help heal when you look back and say, oh, okay, that's actually a really good thing that didn't work out.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And just move on. And we can take ourselves too seriously sometimes. And so I think of the book as almost a little piece of candy. It's just for fun. And it's not necessarily nourishing you nutritionally, but it's making your soul happy and just more connected.
Honestly, I think we can all use a bit more of that. Yeah. This is so fun.
Thank you.
Yeah. Where can people find you?
You can find me at thingsiheardwhiledating.com. The book is available through there. There's a link on there. It's also on Amazon. And my own website is emilytellstories.com.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Emily. This has been such a pleasure. This is so fun. Yeah, come back on anytime. And if you have more and new stories, and maybe we can do like another episode of maybe people can send in their stories and then we can read them back and forth.
That would be so fun.
Yeah.
I'm so here for that.
All right. People, if you have stories, EmilyTellsStories.com.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also find me on the website at BrittanyProcknow.com. So email us. We want to hear your dating stories, and so that way we can tell them on the air. All right.
That's going to be fun.
I think it's going to be so great. Thank you. So appreciate you for coming on, and everyone stay connected.